Welcome back, y'all. It's going to be a busy week for Gears 5 news as we are less than a week away from the release of Operation 3, which is due to come out on March 31st if it doesn't get delayed like it has a couple of times already. So, earlier in the week, we got a big old patch notes as far as to what's to come to Operation 3 as far as cosmetics goes, but we didn't get much as far as mechanics. And that's what we got today. We got a list of some of the changes that are coming in Operation 3 as far as some mechanics, movements, weapons, and just overall balance of the game. As always, I will be putting a link to this in the description below if you want to follow along or take a look at it yourself at your own pace. But let's get right into it. First off, I'm not going to start at top because there's something, in my opinion, much more important towards the middle of these patch notes that I want to talk about. And I'm going to start with weapon-specific updates. And we're going to be talking about the Nasher because the Nasher got a very important update that a lot of the community has been asking for since the release of Gears 5 back in like September. So what exactly did they do to the Nasher? So with Operation 3, they have removed the partial magazine reload feature, which means that all reloads will provide full capacity to the magazine and a perfect active reload will result in the fastest reload possible. So currently, before Operation 3, the only way to reload your full magazine and reload all 6 shots, you had to hit that active reload. And if you hit it in the gray, you would only reload 3 shots. And the only other way to get 6 shots in the magazine is to let the entire animation play out without trying to go for that active reload. This means that you will be able to get into fights much faster than before because you can hit it in that gray, get 6 shots, not have to worry about hitting that active reload, and still be able to deal with opponents. That was not something we could always do before because we would have to rely on only 3 shots majority of the time. So great update in my opinion. Next up on the Nasher changes is that all shots will now land consistently when firing immediately after canceling a cover slide, as well as doing a quick pop shot from behind cover. This essentially means that if you like to wall bounce a lot, you will be able to hit more shots consistently mid wall bounce or coming out of cover. So I'm sure many skilled Gears players are going to have fun with that. Alright, well up to now we've mostly gotten buffs to the Nasher, so time for some nerfs. The first big nerf is that they have reduced poke damage, max potential decreased from 200 down to 150. About a month ago, they decided to revamp the Nasher a little bit and they increased the amount of damage you could do at max range. Well, it was a little bit too strong, so they've decreased it back down to 150, which means you'll be doing 50 points of damage less than what you were doing previously. And the final change coming to the Nasher is that they have reduced hipfire magnetism range by 2. It was previously 8 meters, it is now going to be 6 meters. For those of you that aren't quite sure what bullet magnetism is, it's not quite aim assist, but it just means that if your reticle is close enough to a target, the game will be generous and make your bullets fly towards the enemy, regardless of whether or not you were head on. But with this change, it's going to reduce how generous the game is, which means you're going to have to be much more accurate. And I assume they're doing this due to the fact that you got a few buffs to the Nasher with being able to fire immediately after canceling cover slides as well as quick pop shots. Alright, well that's all the changes as far as the Nasher goes, so let's back up and go to the top of the list of general updates. So let's start off with momentum and roadie running boost. This is the ability to gain a speed boost from a cover slip, a vault, or a step up, but only if your character is moving at a certain speed. They must be moving at 90% of their maximum roadie run speed, and after coming out of a cover slip or a step up or a vault as I mentioned, they will get a slight speed boost. This will essentially make the game feel much more fast-paced for those people that like to be very aggressive and hop between cover and cover, basically wall bouncing, to make the speed seem more seamless and stuff like that. So another good change in my opinion, and I'm waiting to see how it's actually going to play out during gameplay. That's it as far as momentum and speed boost go, so let's move on to blind fire. This is a fairly small, didn't get many changes, it got 2, and that's that they decreased the transition time to blind fire from 0.25 seconds down to 0.15 seconds. What this means is that you'll be able to bring your gun up and start shooting much faster than you previously could. However, there is a downside to that. You are able to start shooting much faster. However, you're going to stay in that blind fire position a little bit longer, which means that even though you've stopped blind firing, your character still needs to bring down his gun, which leaves you open for sniper fire. So it'll make it much easier for you to get headshots. So probably still not the best idea to start blind firing unless you know you are completely safe. Okay, now on to active reloads. We touched on this a little bit when we were talking about the Nasher, but now let's get into how active reloads have actually changed on their own. So first off, active reloads, the way they work right now is that you can't activate a weapon's special ability or their special active reload effect unless the meter is full, and that meter is indicated by a small little white bar next to your bullet count left in your magazine. So each weapon actually has a different time as to how long it takes for that meter to finish filling up. And they've decreased the time for a majority of the weapons. So loadout weapons have now a cooldown of 12 seconds. It used to be 20 seconds before. Secondary weapons, so your pistols, are going to have a cooldown of 10 seconds. And finally, power weapons are going to have a cooldown of 8 seconds, and it used to vary depending on which power weapon it was, between 15 to about 20 seconds. So now power weapons, you will be able to use their active reload much sooner. Alright, now onto weapon switching. They have reduced weapon swap delay before shooting to 0.1 seconds from 0.2 seconds, and they have also reduced the overall weapon swap speed to 0.5 seconds, and it used to be 0.6 seconds, which means you will be able to swap your weapons not much faster, but like slightly faster than what you could previously do. And finally, we have weapon-specific updates. We covered the Nasher earlier, so we'll be skipping over the Nasher this time around. But let's start off with the flashbang. The flashbang has been an extremely powerful grenade for people in ranked and versus in arcade. Basically in everything. Even in Horde, it was pretty good at disorienting enemies and giving you a few seconds in order for you to get out. And they have not completely changed. They have gotten rid of the flashbang as a loadout starting weapon. So now in ranked, you won't be able to start off with the flashbang because to be honest, it was just too OP. It allowed players too much freedom to throw a grenade in and rush with really no precautions without them having to worry about them dying. So now the only way to get a flashbang will be as a pickup on certain maps. However, this isn't a complete nerf, as previously when it was part of your loadout you would only get one grenade, and now when you pick it up from the map it's going to be giving you 2 grenades. This isn't all the changes that we'll be doing to the flash grenade. They do mention that they will be trying to rebalance this grenade, as they know that it's a fairly popular grenade to use. So we'll see how it goes on as time goes through Operation 3. While on the topic of grenades, let's talk about smokes. It's gotten a small nerf. They have reduced the amount of time the smoke stays up from 10 seconds down to 8 seconds, which means you have 2 seconds less in order to obscure the enemy's sight line. So have fun with that. Now moving on to the Lancer got a slight buff. They are increasing the magazine size from 30 rounds up to 40 rounds, which means you have 10 extra rounds for you to take down your enemies. Have fun with that, all you Lancer users. On to the Marksa, they have reduced the damage by 5. It used to be 125, now it is 120. However, it is getting a rate of fire increase. It was only 180, it is now 240. But they are also reducing the magazine size, so now we will only have 8 rounds instead of 10. Time to talk about pistols. First off, the snub pistol. It is getting a rate of fire increase. It was 425, so it's being increased all the way up to 600. They are, however, reducing the initial damage it does. So now it will be doing 60 damage per round. It used to be 75. And they are also changing its active reload effects. Previously, its active reload was that you would get a 25% rate of fire increase. They are changing that, so now you will be doing a 10% damage increase. So they are taking away its initial damage, but they are giving it more damage through active reload, which is a pretty interesting change, and we'll have to see how that goes. And the other pistol to have gotten changes is the Bolt Hog. Sadly, this is just nerfs going down the list with the exception of like one buff. First off, they decreased the damage from 190 down to 185. They have removed the one-shot headshot at point blank range, and they have increased the fall off damage, which means that you will be doing a lot less damage at longer ranges. The only buff that they gave it is that active reload damage has been increased to 20% additional damage. And finally, the last change that we are getting as far as Operation 3 goes is for the drop shot. They have reduced the amount of rounds that the drop shot starts off with from 3 down to 2. The drop shot was a heavily contested weapon at the start of each round, and 3 shots, in my opinion, was way too many. It gave you the opportunity to take down way too many team fights. So giving it only 2 shots is a great change, in my opinion. So there you have it. These are the changes that we know of so far that the coalition has told us of for the versus tuning changes coming to Operation 3. Let me know your thoughts on any of this, especially the Nasher change. How do you feel that the Nasher has reclaimed some of its initial glory from previous games? It is still missing those 2 shots from previous games, and it's only 6 shots instead of 8, but I think it's a step in the right direction for that weapon. But let me know what you think for the Lancer getting 10 more bullets, the pistol changes, the drop shot, the active reload changes in general. Let me know what you think of all that in the comments below. I personally am welcoming to most of these changes. We'll have to wait to see how exactly they play out in Operation 3 once that comes live next Tuesday. But up until then, we'll just have to deal with what they have told us. So that's all I have for y'all today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment down below to let me know your thoughts. Subscribe if you haven't already, it helps me out a lot. And as always, hope you have a good one, and catch y'all next time.